From all of us here at Keen Investigations, we hope you're having a great day. On the morning of July 11th, 1996, in Knoxville, Tennessee, a construction crew showed up to work and found a dead body. The male victim was lying in the middle of a parking lot adjacent to a hotel they had been renovating. Scattered around the body was German, Canadian, U.S. currency totaling nearly $4,000. Contents of the man's wallet identified him as 31-year-old Blair Adams of Surrey, British Columbia. No one knows why Blair ran from his hometown in British Columbia or why he wound up dead in Knoxville, Tennessee. Could he have been running away from a killer or just running away from himself? Blair worked as a foreman of a construction company and was characterized by friends, co-workers, and family as a friendly, cheerful guy. But in the summer of 1996, this began to change. Blair was described as having frequent wild mood swings and becoming noticeably anxious. 2 years sober, he had stopped attending Alcohol Anonymous meetings. His work also began to suffer. He was warned for leaving the job site unlocked. Then he quit without picking up his paycheck, saying he didn't know if he could carry on here. His co-workers suggested he see a doctor. He told his mother that they were spreading rumors about him. He told his friends that someone was trying to kill him. As it turns out, he was right. Then on Friday, July 5th, 1996, Blair rushed to the bank and emptied out all his accounts, withdrawing over $6,000 in cash. He also emptied out his safety deposit boxes containing thousands more gold and jewelry, and put them in a black fanny pack. He told his mother something was bothering him, and took a spur-of-the-moment trip to Courtenay, British Columbia, to visit his uncle, who was not currently home. On that Sunday, Blair attempted to enter the United States, driving his Chevrolet aboard a ferry from Victoria to Seattle, but was stopped at the border. The unusual amount of cash and valuables made the border officials suspicious that he was involved in drug trafficking. Suspicions intensified when he lied about having a criminal record despite having convictions on drug and assault charges. After being denied entry, Blair visited a friend named Sandra Edwards who lived in Surrey, British Columbia. He spoke tearfully about quitting the same job he had just boasted about a week earlier. He seemed anxious and didn't want to stay at his apartment. He also cryptically told a friend he needed to cross the border, that someone wanted to kill him. Then, on July 8th, he went to a travel agency and paid nearly $1,700 in Canadian cash for a round-trip ticket to Frankfurt, Germany. He would later request a refund that same day, explaining that the person he was going to visit had gotten sick. His German girlfriend was not expecting him. Before dawn on July 9th, Blair was spotted wandering near the border. Then he attempted to cross the border on foot. Authorities at the Pacific Highway border crossing noted he had small scratches on his hands and legs. He also matched the description of an auto thief that had been seen in the area. They found a blue car reported stolen from Vancouver near that point where he had tried to cross. Blair appeared dazed and proclaimed his innocence. Police had no evidence to tie him to the stolen car, so they released him back into Canada. A friend later told authorities she saw Adams driving a blue car, not his usual Chevrolet, the day before this happened. After being released by border authorities, Blair drove his car to the Vancouver International Airport and rented a Nissan Altima. He jumped in and hurried back to the border. On this third try, he made it across the border to Seattle. He left the Nissan rental car at the Seattle airport and purchased an overnight one-way flight to Washington, D.C. for $800, when he could have bought a round-trip ticket for half that price. He arrived at Dulles International Airport on the morning of Wednesday, July 10th. Blair then rented a white Toyota Camry, and around 6:45 he began to drive to Knoxville. Near Troy, Virginia, he backed into another man's vehicle, causing minor damage. The man would tell authorities that Blair was nice but seemed to be in a big hurry. The first reported sighting of Blair in Knoxville is at a gas station around 5:30 p.m. A man working as a repair service driver named Gerald Sapp responded to the gas station after a clerk had called saying a customer needed help with their car. Blair was trying to use the key that belonged to a Nissan when he was driving a Toyota Camry. The repairman asked him to look in his pocket, saying to him, "If you drove this thing here, you gotta have another key in your pocket." But he would not look. He was very insistent that he had the right key for the car he was driving. He didn't appear to be on drugs. It seemed more like his mind wasn't working correctly for some reason. Sapp called a tow truck to tow the Camry to an auto shop and dropped Blair off at a newly built Marriott hotel that was nearby. Blair jumped out of the truck and walked off without his bag. Sapp had to get out of his truck and walk after him to give it back to him. At the Marriott Fairfield Inn, Adams continued to exhibit strange behavior. The surveillance video shows him entering and exiting the lobby 5 times within 45 minutes. Authorities would later interview the clerk working the front desk that night. She said that Blair repeatedly turned around like he was expecting someone to walk in, but no one ever did. He finally ended up paying for a room with a $100 bill around 7 p.m., but then he quickly left without waiting for his some odd $50 in change. The clerk repeatedly tried to call his room, but there was no answer. Harry Moyers, a detective who worked the case, ruled out 2 reported sightings of Adams after he left the hotel that night. 3 employees at the T&R truck stop in Dandridge claimed they saw Blair there between 9:30 and 10:30 p.m., flipping through tattoo magazines and talking to an unidentified man about Canadian money. Also, 2 women in a nearby Cracker Barrel told detectives they saw Adams with another man. They were unable to identify the man due to the descriptions not matching. Authorities believe Blair, who at this point had no car, got something to eat somewhere after he left the hotel because there was food in his stomach at the time of the autopsy. The next morning he was found dead at the construction site located across I-40 from the Marriott Hotel that he had checked into. Around 7 a.m. on July 11th, workers arrived at the job site and first thought that a homeless man had bedded down for the night in the parking lot. As they got closer, they saw that there was thousands of dollars in Canadian, German, and American cash around the body. One of the workers at the site pocketed a $100 and a $10 bill, but authorities later recovered them. Blair's pants were removed in a way not like someone would take their own pants off, but in a way that someone else would remove your pants from you. His socks were turned inside out, his shoes were off, his shirt was ripped open. One sock lay on the asphalt next to him, the other one was under his head like a pillow. Detectives also found a black duffel bag nearby containing maps and various travel receipts. His fanny pack was found unzipped nearby with 5 ounces of gold bars, jewelry, and platinum coins. It looked as if the contents were untouched. The Toyota car key and the card for the hotel was lying on the ground next to him. The only person who reported hearing anything out of the ordinary that night was a security guard at a nearby business. He told detectives he heard an abrupt scream around 3:30 a.m., but he thought it sounded like a woman's scream. An autopsy found that someone had beat him. A heavy blow to the chest ruptured his stomach, and he died of septic shock. His forehead had been sliced open with a sharp object. It looked like Blair had put up a fight. There was tufts of hair missing from his head, like they had been pulled out. His hands were badly cut up as if he tried to defend himself. One hand was cut quite deeply and blackened, like Blair had been forcibly knocked to the pavement. Investigators recovered a long strand of someone else's hair from that hand, the only hard piece of physical evidence they had in this case. Certain injuries indicated that he had been sexually assaulted, but there was no DNA evidence, and it was unclear when the assault occurred. Although Adams had battled addiction in the past, toxicology reports would show he had no drugs or alcohol in his system at the time of death. He had not officially been diagnosed with any kind of mental illness. Detectives would ultimately uncover a lot of information in this case. They did several interviews with the repair truck driver that had dropped Blair off at the hotel. He was not a match for the hair found on Blair's hand. The ordeal led him, then in his 40s, to leave his job. They never accused him of anything, but he said he felt like he was under suspicion for killing someone and that wasn't anywhere he wanted to be. Authorities would also find that Blair worked in late 1995 for his stepfather doing construction on an assisted living facility near Frankfurt, Germany. He met a woman there while attending a party in November. The two began dating. She told detectives that he was a gentleman, whereas some, including a man he worked with in Germany, portrayed him as an abrasive and confrontational person who occasionally got into fights. He told his German girlfriend and at least one other friend that he feared violence from a former co-worker that had recently returned from Germany. Blair's mother claimed in a recent conversation with a reporter from Knox News that Blair had been in a relationship with a male friend shortly before he had left. But as far as she knew, he had gone back to a heterosexual relationship. She also told the reporter that Blair had been on his way to the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, Georgia, when he died. When asked why she did not tell police about this, she hung up on him. He did call back, but the husband answered the phone and said, "We are not opening up this can of worms again." Although the case is still unsolved, this is one of the few cold cases that I have looked at where it seems that authorities did exhaust all leads. There are quite a few articles on the internet that have the details for this case wrong. All the details in this video can be found in an article that we have linked below, and the author lists his sources at the end of the article. What do you think happened? Let us know in the comments below. And if you know anyone that's interested in true crime, go ahead and share the channel. And if you haven't already, maybe subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.